is this individualistic, neoliberal kind of view of, you know, if we could just get you back to work, yeah. And I'm really aware of some of the other speakers, and you know, and the Road to Recovery, our drug strategy in 2008, said we need to get people back to being active, contributing members of society. Now, you know, people are contributing, whether they're using or not. You know, let's not other them. So, you know, that's an invite. So, what Bruce Alexander is speaking about is the globalisation of the free market society, hypercapitalism as a source of massive psychosocial dislocation, of, you know, these are all fancy terms, I know, but basically, people are in pain, and we're all in pain, yeah? We're all in pain, we're all struggling. Addiction is a way of adapting to sustained dislocation, yeah? It's actually a functional response. He doesn't say it's a positive response, it says it's a functional response to pain. And it's a free market society that's globalising, that spreads dislocation and creates this pain. And so what he argues, he says we need a complete paradigm shift. Addiction needs to be understood socially as a way that large numbers of people adapt to the breakdown of psychologically sustaining culture under global influence of free market society. This is a social issue, it's a deeply political issue. It's not an individual issue, and it's not simply about seeking abstinence, it can't be. Yeah? And the invitation, I think, is to all of us. The best way out of addiction is to find a place in a secure community. That's all of you, that's what all of you do, that's what all of you can do. And all of us can offer help because we're all in it. So his paradigm is very much of one of us and not one of them and us. Are you in it or are you not in it? This binary of, yeah, you know, I'm not having to go into any particular groups, but I do think it's unhelpful as a way forward to use identity as the only mechanism in which we can help. Yes, and some of you will understand deeply what I mean by that. Everyone is offered to help as they exist in a dislocated world. All transitions require identity transformation. Yeah, the role of education on so many levels that we've heard today is central to that. It's absolutely central to that transformation. And any harm reduction that we can do, as well as the recovery work, is an invitation. It's an invitation back from the margins. This is all deeply about connection and the connections that we can offer people. This is this model where, you know, everybody's involved in mass addictions. We're living in a culture that, you know, drug and alcohol are part of much larger mass addictions. We're all consumers. We're all, you know, we're consuming and addicting to all sorts of things. So I suppose we just want to end with this question, don't we, John?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Conscientisation.
Conscientisation. The pedagogies of the learning of
Pedagogy.
of hope and recovery. Yes, absolutely. This is the question we want you to talk about for just a few minutes. Because some people in the room have very deep connections into this work, and I think it would be dead useful. What are the future opportunities for radical adult education to tackle the inequalities inherent in recovery, drug dependence, and drug-related deaths? Thank you.
All of us.
Thank you. Actually, I don't think I've thanked anybody today, so I better not thank you either. But thank you. And I'm just checking time. I think that there's one thing I'm going to ask the pair of you before we break into discussion, and I'll ask that in a second. Regarding discussion, what we'll do is it's about 22. That's slightly fast. It's about 22 just now. And what I'd be wanting is to not have a few minutes, but actually a full 20 minutes of discussion on this, on the questions that Wendy and Beck also asked, and also that, so as Ash, what I'm asking is to actually move in the room, talk to each other and contribute. We've got great contributions from literacy this morning, because we had that time. So, but before we do that, it's actually not a question, just could you give us an example, just one example between the pair of you, or maybe both of you, one quick one each, of a current adult learning project that addresses your question?
I think that we're looking at contextual literacies, we're looking at social practices that we've talked about this morning, that the possibilities for the recovery community to get into adult education are enormous. My colleagues, Gemma and Alex, and I have set up with ERA, that's the Edinburgh Recovery Action Activities. ERA have set up, and it's been going on for a few years, but we're kickstarting it in January, or the end of January, called the Share Learning for Democracy, where we look at, I mean, I'm so glad Joyce mentioned Bruce Alexander's, because he talks about the structural issues beyond the 12-step programme. How do we look at the issues that Joyce has been talking about? And that's what we've been doing, devising a curriculum based in some ways on the work of Paulo Freire, that idea of conscientiousation, where people come in and they can look at the National Health Service, they can look at income inequality, they can look at why me, why has it happened to me? What the person in recovery has to take responsibility, and Lockie talks about that, Darren McGarvey. However, some of this isn't by accident. Some of this we were speaking in Midlothian 2 weeks ago, and the last time I spoke in Midlothian was in 1984, where just after Arthur Scargill and Mick McGarvey had spoken. And now the community is devastated in so many ways with drug deaths, and so it's not by accident. Some of the most militant areas in Mansfield. I was in a pit called Bloodworth for a week, and then threw me back on the train. But it was like going to the English Civil War. It was like going to the English Civil War. One side were from the 21st century, the Metropolitan Police, and the other side were from the charters in the 19th century. And but they ate communally, they did everything collectively, and now they're bereft and bereaved by drug deaths, and you know, there's no jobs anymore, and nobody wants to work down the mines. I'm not suggesting that for a second, but there wasn't a transformation, a sustainable transformation. So here we have a huge, rich and fertile area for why has it happened to our community, and that comes through a dialogical approach to adult education. I really hope that the groups from Glasgow and the groups from other places will come through to the Share Learning for Democracy, and we can set them up in other areas without stepping on anybody's toes. Nobody's suggesting that, but how could we have a flower? I mean, it's such the stuff Dave talks about is just, it's too sad in a way to kind of take in, that there's this flowering of critical and analytical learners who were into praxis, who were into doing something about it, giving their lives to this. McLean.
Joyce, have you got anything to add to that? Just know, or should we break?
Yes, I know.
Something practical just now that you just as a wee example.
As a wee example, I feel like I should ask Anne-Marie, who's the National Development Officer for the Scottish Recovery
Movement.
Recovery Movement.
Yeah, recovery movement.
What would you say to that, Anne-Marie?
I would say it's all emerging throughout Scotland. So you've got the 15 prisons in Scotland, you've got the 31 alcoholic parks, and within all of these areas are these emerging recovery communities, so working from the bottom up, but also influencing I'm going to just say the workforce development part of it, so those documents we were discussing in the break that for anybody that's really interested in this, and it's called In Plain Sight, and it's, I don't know if you've read it, it's, I would love it repeated up here, it's a whole piece of work about bullying, workplace bullying, how we treat our staff, and yet we expect, especially in health and social care, we expect such a high, robust member of staff, and sometimes on 0-hour contracts. But coupled with that, they go to their work early, they eat their lunch at their desk, and they usually are there at the end of the day a lot later than they need to. There's nowhere for them to go. They're exhausted. We have a workforce on their knees who are actually trying to deal with very wonderful people. So I think we need to look at that. The other thing I think just relevant would be the house I lived in. If anybody's seen that, there's an 8-minute YouTube video on it, and it's actually the story of how we label people. And so, for example, the Jews, label them, start telling everybody they're bad, then start a star in their arm, then dislocate, take away the, and it's, this story isn't new. What is new is the recovery movement is starting to use words, and so is Scottish Government, like activism. So the rights, respect and recovery strategy is actually all about human rights and a rights-based approach. What does that look like? You know, and it's all very relevant. So all these different pockets are actually relevant to how we can all do our jobs better. We know that I'm so sorry, but just this is really important because £87 million invested in the problem, and we know if we can support people to 5 years of recovery and beyond, they become what Phil Valentine calls better everywhere. So they're actually more content, they're happier, they're better adjusted citizens, and they achieve more of their human potential than people that never had an addiction. Says Anthony, 29 years in recovery.
Thanks ever so much, thank you. And let's have, we'll catch up with Gordy after the 20, no, he says no, right, but 20 minutes either, you know, 20 minutes talking, rotating, writing up, go on the back channel chat if you prefer, and we'll reconvene 3:10. We'll have a brief feedback, and I think the theme of that might be what next actually.
Yeah, that's all. That would be it. Yeah, I'll say maybe
we're not going to go all the way down the language speeches and anything like that, because that would work. But I think it's important that we're all here that have made a contribution here, and yourselves as well contributing here today. With the time that we've got, what I'd like to do is, Gordon, the back channel chat has been going, and it's been an experiment, and it's an experiment that you might like to see. So, Gordon, could you come and over and sort of show us it? Just to show what it looks like. And then what we're going to do is just, I'm going to sort of feedback what I've taken from today. And then if anyone else wants to feedback what they've taken for today in terms of our dialogue with you. And it's really, and for me it's really what next. we will be stopping, 15 minutes time, but we'll see where we go with that, but we're not going to be able to do some kind of Q&A because it won't work. So, Gordon, could you just sort of scroll
I think it's just there's two obvious purposes to this, and one of the reasons suggesting folk are anonymous is to help that notion of a kind of democratic dialogue. So there is the option of folk being able to speak up without raising their hand, to speak up without identifying themselves, and have that brought up in discussion. And the other thing we've been using it for is to pick up on what folk have said, to share a whole series of resources and stuff. So again, if folk, and that saves taking up time with everyone going around the room saying, I'm involved with this group or I'm with this group. So one of the things we can do when we email around at the end is strip out all the resources and stuff that are useful from here and make that part of the email. So again, if anyone wants to go on before we finish and share some resources or whatever, we'll put that together and make it part of the email that goes around the email list.
So if you take a note of the link, but we will put the link back out, but what we'll do is we'll keep it open.
We'll keep it open.
And you can see there's a link there to some news from the Co-op College. So that there's links there to what's been mentioned during the day, which Gordy has been finding or other folk have been posting. So if you've been wondering about particular resources that we released today, they'll be up there. But we'll keep it open for, let's say, until after the weekend. So if any of you are looking at it and want to add more, please do. We're really keen to receive that. Now,
is this on Twitter? Is it?
No, it's not.
No.
Well, we'll send the link. It's a link to a particular application where it's all on. And the reason it's not like Twitter is it's private. It's just us. So when you're posting on it, it's not a public thing. Now, that was technical language. So what have I got out today? What are the feedback? Because this, was there a purpose in looking back 100 years and then looking forward? And to me, definitely, to look back 100 years ago to a time of terrible crisis, the end of a war, a brutal war at a time of massive change to everybody's lives. Yes, because we're 100 years on, what situation are we in now? And to see that in that time, that the levels of solidarity that people had in organising from whatever view or whatever their angle in, whether it be temperance and self-improvement in the church, or whether it be radical socialist politics, there was a level of solidarity and activity that I think we can be proud of, because as everybody, the speakers talking about now onwards, there's echoes. This is a tradition. We're not disconnected, I would say, from 100 years ago. Many of what our practices and our thinkings have percolated down over the centuries, and this is still a living movement that we are a part of. And I suppose the question for me is, where is the action? And by what I mean in terms of action, where are the people that are asserting and responding and building solidarity through adult education in facing the problems, the terrible problems that we're currently facing? And it seemed to me that possibly the issues around the recovery movement, given the level of dialogue and the stimulus that gave, is something that's really, really, that we're feeling. It wasn't just a rational thought that was the case, that it's in our hearts as well. So maybe that's something, that is a movement that we can all be learning from, taking forward our own work. And then for other speakers say that you could see that the contrast between learning English with the Scottish Labour College and then this policy of spaghetti that we're all working in time to, and picking out, finding our way through to get to what's important. So these are the themes that we're measuring. It's how do we keep to what's important given everything that we're engaged with. And before I talk past to the others, I realise I've taken far more of my time. Stage privilege. But from the informal discussions, I'd be really interested to know if you could indicate, please, if you are either at risk of redundancy, redundancies are, losing your jobs on your mind, or colleagues that you have they lost their jobs and you're stepping in for and backfilling for, could you please indicate if, or you're worried about it, and I don't just mean personally, I mean you're worried about the education and the services that you're delivering with that in mind, not necessarily your own career. So could you please indicate if that is the sort of situation that you feel that you are part of at the minute? Okay, there's a few in there. It seems to be that all of us have organised it actually.
Could I just say that with that as well, that it's not even in a lot of ways a facing redundancy, but I think there needs to be maybe a discussion around the fact that a lot of us are precariat workers as well.
Yes. Who's precarious in their work? Too many. Who's a student here? Right, of the students that are here, who feels that this has been an keep your hand up if you feel this has been educational for you. You've got to put your hand up, haven't you? That's the right answer.
We need to do that back.
Well done.
That'll be towards your final grade. But I'll just briefly pass to them. I'm going to start saying
I've had a great day. I've really enjoyed speaking to other people and the conversations and the connections, there are links. And I said in preparation for this, I reignited the kind of passion I had for literacy's work and its relation to inequalities, and so many, I've made more connections in my brain. There's been more links and connections just through listening to other people, and I think especially with recovery, that was really interesting to hear the history of and the relation of sobriety to movements in the past and how that's relevant today. So I think it's been really useful to have that past and present and future, just to kind of look at the parallels and things we can learn from it. One more thing I'd like to say is a few people spoke to me who are coming from other countries, and it's been really interesting to hear their experiences in their country, the differences, but also looking at from their lens, looking at what's happening in Scotland. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks.
I'm going to echo a lot of what Sarah's just said. I think it's really interesting to look at where we were 100 years ago and where we are now. And although we haven't had a great war, it's still pretty brutal. So I think it's really encouraging to see people here from various different organisations just coming together to look at what we can do together in the future. And I'm interested in, and I've spoken to a few people already, but I'm interested in potential joint work with people and how we can take our adult education strategy forward and what we can do, and not just for the people that we are working and supporting directly, but for the wider population. Because I think, and I was saying to Jackie just a few minutes ago, we're also busy focusing on our own areas of work that we don't stop to think about what's happening, like the recovery. I used to work in adult literacies, but I've kind of moved away from that, so it was really interesting to hear about that again. It's brought back a lot of memories, and obviously the challenges are still there, but I just kind of don't think about it as much as I used to because I'm not focusing on that day in, day out. So I think it's really important that we do all have these opportunities to share the work that we're involved in and how we can work together.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I just think it's been great for me because it just feels like a movement of solidarity amongst all of us actually, all working in an area around, I guess, that the emancipatory potential of adult lifelong learning. And it just strikes me how deeply and profoundly political it always has been and remains into the future. And I think we need to be extremely proud of that and keep hold of it in these very difficult times. So it's been incredibly hopeful for me, actually. And it's been great to hear about the Scottish kind of picture and scene as well, which I know a lot less about. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Connections, I suppose that's the word that springs to mind. And political connections, solidarity. I think for me, just reflecting on the fact that we've got some recovery movement people here today, I wonder whether we need to be much more overtly calling what is happening in the recovery movement adult education, and actually making some of these links much more strongly. So I think there's possibility going forward to build much stronger bridges, but I think this is about connection, and I think it is about hope. Yeah, thank you.
I just really like to thank Sarah, because she's really, Sarah's kind of, it's been Sarah's birth child really, and she's endeavoured to keep us all together and sent us books and not told us what to do, but not exactly, and it's been really, and the thing about connection, and it's sad in a way that there's not 1,000 or 2,000 people here. Do you know what I mean? Not back in the day. I mean, where did that one cut? Like, by the way, but back in the day, you know, when McLean was organising, there was 1,000 people coming to that education club. So it's a minority sport, and how do we bust out of that? Because and just thank yourself from coming up from Matlock.
Mansfield. It's not far away.
Is it
well.
have you
Yeah,
ever
very
been to
close.
Barnsley Northern College?
I've been quite a few times.
With Bob Fryer? Bob.
No.
No.
I know of.
I'm sorry, he was Blair's lifelong learning commissar.
Oh yes.
He was a Marxist, so Blair sacked him. Sorry, Blair. But thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. The thing about connection and the thing about the proclamation. I mean, this is the thing. I wish Dec was here. The thing about a proclamation of a Soviet in George Square. You know, what does that mean? I mean, it's so enormous. It's so revolutionary. And it's not, perhaps it's not by accident, but I really think it's been lovely. It's great, a community of love, you know. Really, thank you.
I've got one thing, just another final observation, and then if we have got a couple minutes, if anyone else wants to pile in, but I will be being a firm chair and shutting things down, Stuart's indicating. But the question is that I'm really excited that all the forward-looking people, that's all women on the panel, we didn't just think, right, we'll have men going into the past. Women who can talk about actually the hope for the future. That kind of turned out like that. And that's very exciting. So, I think that there's the feminist movement on the up as well as my observation. And that's something else that's born out of adult education. You students that are studying anything like women's studies, where did that come from? Adult education. That's where it started. And so there's a final piece in the loop here, because it has been universities that have been involved in laying all this on in terms of money, and the Lippmann Miliband Trust. Look it up, because I get that's part of this history. It's an organisation that supports socialist education. Really great. So do look, Google and see what the projects are that they've been funding. But I can't remember what I was going to say now. What was the thing I said before that?
David Miliband's dad.
No, I'm
Ralph
not.
Miliband. Ralph Miliband. Staying in a capitalist society.
Not
Staying in a capitalist society? No.
No. Feminism. Yes. So the connection is, what we need proper adult education that engages. That's the curriculum of the future.
Yeah.
That's the curriculum of the future as well. It's not just women's studies, science as well. Geology. Still now, amateurs feed into that. So there's a whole issue about what is being taught, and so part of the issue about what's going on in terms of teaching in university is because of a break in the cycle of how knowledge is produced and what ends up on our curriculum and eventually in school. And so that would be, that's part of what's important about what we're doing here as well. Is there anyone who's got anything, top that, anyone got anything to say about stuff? Stuart has.
Well, I just want to echo the congratulations for you, Sarah, but it was John's point about how there's no many of us here today, so I just want to remind you all that potentially we could make this available to more people through the journal concept. Some of you know it, some of you may not, some in fact are contributors. That's the Community Education Journal, focused around about the University of Edinburgh, but it's a partnership of academics and practitioners, and very much encouraging practitioners to write about their practice. And it strikes me that this would be a useful organ to disseminate something, and usually we would get people to perhaps review the conference, or maybe even kind of invite some of the speakers to write up some of their presentations, and be able to get that to the journal. I'm no longer the editor, I have to say. I used to be up to about a couple of weeks ago, but years. But Jim is still on the portable, so maybe we'll be able to contact Jim. But it'd be useful, and it's not just located in Scotland, and I think now we have something like, I think last time we identified there was something like 10,000 readers across the world, so it's kind of international. So it'd be an opportunity for us in Scotland to kind of speak to a bigger audience.
The contributions that are quite small, sort of 3,000 worders, and you take contributions from anywhere.
Yeah.
So
if anyone's interested in kind of perhaps reviewing, and maybe some of the students might want to write something, but see, I don't know if you want to kind of liaise with people, and I can feed that into the
Well, what I will do is get an email out to everybody thanking me for your contribution and linking to everything that's going, and then and so if you want anything to go out in that communication, please email me direct before I do that. Is there anything else on where we go from here, or is Jackie, have you got anything to say?
No.
Jackie Howe needs to be thanked. She's the only person who wasn't involved in an organisation who hasn't been mentioned, and she sat on her own in the corner, so we should give her Learning Link Scotland, that is your networking organisation for adult learning, particularly amongst the voluntary sector, but for everybody in Scotland, and that's your hub. Anybody else? That's it. Right, we've got to be out of the building by 4 o'clock.
And there's an open invite if anyone wants to come to Dublin to continue chat and have a beer, wine, coffee, water. Tea. Smoking.
Now, the committee report is out on Monday, so look out for that. Double it round the corner, despite the temperance, that's where John will be. And keep it neat, tidy and clean, and if anyone can help actually cleaning up, that would be brilliant. The STUC have been fantastic.